Dig into some trout yogurt and smile for the camera because this week we're tackling Mother.
Mother, there is no other like Mother, so treat her right. Mother.
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory, the show where our special PSI ability is Brain Shock. Episode 11, our romp through the Pacific Ocean to find Adventure Island, got me talking about my top 10 games, and this week has me unveiling one more. I confess it, I'm an Earthboundian, a Nessophile, a fuzzy pickler. Anyway, it's tied for my number 1 spot. I mean, what other game has you fighting ruler-brandishing hippies, a former member of the Screw Attack team, and a huge, steaming pile of vomit with googly eyes? It's a well-loved cult classic and is hailed as one of the funniest, most unique games of all time, but this Technicolor romp about a boy, his bat, and his portly demon spawn of a next-door neighbor hides a much darker side. So put on your Mr. Baseball cap as we check out the birth of the creepiest boss in gaming, chemical terrorists, police brutality, prostitutes, dismemberment, and a whole lot more. At first glance, Earthbound simply appears to be an offbeat RPG with a quirky sense of humor. Taking place in the year 1990X, Ness, our silent protagonist and psychic wunderkind, along with the help of his motley crew, must save the world from an evil alien force named Gygus. Kinda like Chrono Trigger, but without time travel, and replacing the ethers and crossbows with pizzas and frying pans. The music sounds like it came from an episode of Rocko's Modern Life with a lot of catchy bleeps and blats, and the color palette ranges from Sunday morning comics to psychedelic trip out. But the rainbow bright feel glosses over some serious issues here. For example, practically every list chronicling the scariest bosses in gaming features, spoiler alert, Earthbound's final fight against Gygus, which is odd since no other boss in the game is scarier than a Hello Kitty stuffed animal. Aw, a giant ant! Aw, a cute disease-ridden rat! But then look at this! You walk up through a twisted system of intestines, already a huge change in tone from the rest of the game, only to fight this, which turns into this! The director of the game, Shigesato Itoi, has been very open in admitting that his inspiration for Gygus was what he remembered as a rape scene from The Military Policeman and the Dismembered Beauty, an adult movie that traumatized him when he accidentally saw it as a child. It also inspired Gygus' dialogue with phrases like, "It hurts," and "I feel good." Also, and I'm just going to touch on this because fans of the game hate this theory, but it deserves to be mentioned, many have debated the final boss takes the form of, are you ready for it? A fetus. Seriously. But it kinda makes sense, walking along internal organs, and then look at the negative space here. It's kind of like a messed up Rorschach test. But baby or no baby, you can start to see why it's not much of a stretch to say that Earthbound may have some darker themes. Take, for instance, its cult. And no, I don't mean Earthbound's fanbase. Sure, the cult depicted in the game calls itself happyism, and yes, their mission statement is laughable considering that they figuratively want to paint the town red by literally painting it blue, which includes coloring the town's dairy cow a nice shade of periwinkle. But like a hallway of fallopian tubes, it gets a whole lot more disturbing when you look a little closer. Aum Shinrikyo was a cult founded in Japan in 1984 by a mostly blind acupuncturist who claimed he could levitate. Here's a copy of their logo, and here's an image of their leader in his traditional attire. Does the color look familiar? It should. But there's more. The cult grew in popularity until the 90s, when it had built up enough support for members to run for public office. They didn't win, but their campaign became synonymous with singing, dancing, smiling balloons, and an overall happy tone. Another odd parallel to the happiest of Earthbound, but if you're still not convinced, their headquarters was located in a small dairy town. A mundane fact which takes on a whole new meaning when considering that the only cow to appear in the game is the one living right outside the happyism compound. So who is this cult? Aum Shinrikyo began producing the deadly nerve gas sarin in 1993 and used it in the city of Matsumoto, Nagano, killing 8 and harming 200, making it the first instance of terrorism using chemical weapons against innocent civilians. They struck again in 1995 on 5 subway trains in Tokyo. With baggies of liquefied sarin wrapped in newspapers along with another baggie of solvent that could turn it into a gas, members of the cult entered the subways, left the packages, and then punctured the bags with an umbrella point on their way out, leaving the deadly gases to mix behind them, killing 12 and affecting as many as 5,000. When their compound was finally raided, investigators found explosives, anthrax, Ebola, and even a Russian military helicopter. Knowing this makes a silly cult wanting to paint the world blue seem a whole lot more sinister. And the mature themes don't stop there. What about unprovoked police brutality? Can you think of another game before 1994 with that? How about a game after 1994? Even in Grand Theft Auto, the big daddy of bad behavior games, you have to seriously maim a couple of pedestrians before the cops will even pay attention to you. But here, after beating the first boss, Earthbound has Ness, a young boy, dragged to the police station where he is assaulted by 4 cops and their captain one by one. It's sick! And accurate. You see, the 90s as a decade was the first time the phrase police brutality made it to the public consciousness, most famously with the case of Rodney King in 1991. It started when Los Angeles police officers pulled King over for drunk driving following a high-speed chase. After subduing him with a taser, the officers proceeded to kick him repeatedly and hit him 56 times with their batons. In 1992, a jury acquitted most of the officers on trial, which led to the famous LA riots. An interesting story, but what's it have to do with Earthbound? Remember how I said that Ness defends himself against 4 regular cops and a captain? Guess how many officers were there on the scene during the Rodney King beating? 4, and 1 sergeant. How about prostitutes leading you into hotel rooms to get mugged? Yep, Earthbound's got that. What about willfully choosing to have your arms, legs, ears, and eyes ripped from your body, only to then lose your mind? Earthbound has that too. It's funny just how much an oddball sense of humor and bright tone can cover up, because as a kid, none of this made me think twice. Well, except for that last one, I really didn't want that spirit to rip out my eyes. When Shigesato Itoi set out to create a different kind of RPG, one based on the real world, he did just that, and didn't limit himself to simply replacing tonics with hamburgers and merchants to department stores. He dealt with issues you see in the media every day: rape, religious fanaticism, violence, but handled them with a dash of humor and a heaping spoonful of bizarre storytelling. Earthbound isn't about a boy trying to stop an alien menace. It's about a boy growing up, leaving his home, and experiencing both the good and the bad of the world. That's why Gygus is so scary. He's based on the moment Itoi lost that childhood innocence. And that's why the ending of the game is so satisfying, because Ness faced that darkness and made it through, becoming a young adult. He's grown up, and we, as the player, have cared enough to get him there. It's truly a triumph of the gaming experience, and one that I recommend to anyone. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory.